Hi, this is David Spray, and welcome to another episode of the IC Disc Show. My guest today is Andy Hein, a founder of a company called Patent Veritas. Andy has a legal background. He's an attorney and worked at some of the top law firms in the world out of law school. And then he saw an opportunity and started this business. And it's really fascinating. Apparently, almost every company, every privately held company has exposure to being sued by patent trolls or competitors that use patents as a tool to extract money out of a company. And virtually every privately held, closely held company is at risk for this. And they have a solution that addresses this, by which the company can license or have a subscription that allows them to have access to tens of thousands of patents in the company's portfolio. So you don't need to own the patents. You can just license the necessary ones to protect you and your company. Anyway, Andy's a really dynamic guy, interesting service, and they can also wrap it in an estate planning wrapper to make it even more appealing. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Good afternoon, Andy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, good afternoon, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. So where are you calling in from today?
I'm in the great town of Carmel, Indiana. So just right outside Indianapolis.
I think you have more roundabouts than any city in the country, if my knowledge is correct on that.
We do. I think we still have one or two stop signs and stoplights to take out, but they're getting thinner by the day. So yeah, we have a lot of them.
Now, are you a native of Indiana?
I am. Yeah, I'm originally from Crown Point, which is in the northwest corner of Indiana, and then eventually migrated our way down to central Indiana here.
Okay. Well, my all-time favorite basketball player is from Southern Indiana.
Oh, who's that?
That would be Larry Legend.
Of course. Yeah. No, obviously a great player. Pretty famous around these parts too.
Now you're an attorney. Where did you go to law school?
So I went over to Georgetown Law Center over in DC.
Yep.
And studied there, focusing mostly on patent law, but a bit on finance as well.
And your undergraduate degree, I believe, is in engineering. Is that right?
It is, yeah. It's in chemical engineering from Trine University, which is a school just in Northeast Indiana.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like most IP attorneys I know have a technical undergraduate degree. It seems to kind of go together.
Yeah, it's like peas and carrots. Especially when you go to law school, they ask, well, what did you study? A lot of folks study history or philosophy. And when you say engineering, they say, you should think about being a patent attorney. And so we kind of, you go into that and you think, well, it's kind of interesting, actually. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, we all kind of end up there for the most part.
Now, right after law school, did you launch your own firm then, or did you take a different path?
Yeah, no, I took a kind of a traditional path. So I started my career at a firm called Skadden Arps, and I was in the Chicago office. There I worked on actually finance work, doing supporting M&A and Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and then also did litigation there as well. So spent a few years there, and then went over to another firm called Sidley Austin, and there I concentrated just on patent litigation. Doing deals and litigation work is a lot of fun on paper, but eventually you have to pick a horse to ride on. So I picked the litigation one. So just stuck with patent litigation and worked there for a number of years before setting out on my own.
Yeah, and those are, arguably two of the top 10 law firms in the country, right? By many metrics, or top 20, very kind of traditional white shoe law firms, right?
Yeah, they're up there for sure. So yeah, great place, great experience at both firms. It was a wonderful time there.
So let's come up to the current time. So tell me about, and off the top of my head, I don't even remember the name of the company. Tell me the name of the company and why you started it and what you guys do.
Yeah, so our company is Patent Veritas. What we do is we help, for the most part, privately held businesses of all sizes with their IP litigation risk, as well as enhancing their IP functionality within their business. It's kind of the culmination of what I've been doing over a number of years. We're very client focused, and this is one where it kind of pulls together a lot of the past experience and work that I've done, and my colleague Nick Stabinsky and partner Nick Stabinsky has done. So we've formed that, and the neat part about that is it addresses a real concern that some companies know about. Just actually had a conversation this morning where someone was very aware of what we're trying to do and trying to help the company with, and others haven't heard of it, but it's a risk that's out there and a very real one that we're trying to help companies with.
So I know what patent means. Veritas, I think, is Latin, but I don't recall off the top of my head. What does Veritas mean?
So it's just patent truth. It just sounded pretty good Latin word in there. So we put it in there. So
that is great. And it sounds like that you saw some opportunity in this space based on your prior experience or clients. Like was there a specific situation that made you say, hey, there's a hole in the market here, and I think I'm the guy that needs to fill it. Was there anything in particular?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and there was. It's mostly clients were coming to us. Two things we noticed over the years, and then also more directly, folks were asking us on the patent side. Two things would happen because what we do is the particular IP risk is against patent trolls. These are folks that buy patents. They don't make a product or otherwise. They just buy buckets of patents and they sue operating companies for licensing revenue. So we saw a number of clients getting sued that way. And patent lawsuits are expensive. I mean, a cheap one, according to the AIPLA, which is an association of IP attorneys, a relatively lower cost one or average one is about $6 million if you're going to trial, which is, yes, it's a lot of money. We've had clients upwards of spend 50 million plus on legal fees. So patent litigation is not cheap. And so a lot of the folks that are the patent trolls or also called non-practicing entities, these folks, they know that arbitrage cost, right? And so they'll come in, they'll buy the patents a lot of times, then they go to these companies and they ask for a license that's below the cost of the litigation. And so that's their business model. So we saw that happening to a number of our clients. And these are especially targeted now are oftentimes small and medium enterprises, right? Privately held businesses, because that's their money, right? And so they're going to make a decision perhaps different than a bigger company like a Samsung will make or otherwise to say, hey, we have the money.
They may just make a more pragmatic decision, right? Because they may not have $6 million to spend.
Exactly. So the decision process by an Apple or Samsung, which has a much larger litigation budget, is a lot different than when you're targeting, say, privately held manufacturer or maybe a restaurant chain or something like that. Very successful businesses and oftentimes making many millions of dollars, but their decision with that money is a lot different than an Apple. As to saying, I'm just going to fight all this. We're just going to fight everything that comes our way. Which isn't really possible for these companies because they're just not, they don't have that deep of pockets. And so we thought of a solution for that, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon, but it came from that. And then also in our work, we buy and sell patents. That's how we kind of got into forming Patent Veritas. And that comes into play here as well, where we see this secondary market of patent purchases and sales going through, and oftentimes those patents ending up in the hands of these non-practicing entities or patent trolls, and then they go off and license that. So we see that market as well. And I think we're able we formed a company here to kind of make a difference for that and help folks out. Additionally, what we also saw a lot of times were our privately held clients, again, successful businesses, all ranges of things, but they didn't necessarily devote the resources or have the capability really in the IP space. And so we also address that with Patent Veritas, which is helping companies have almost an instant patent portfolio when they work with us. That's also expensive to develop. It can cost several millions of dollars to develop your own patents organically and grow it, which is a great thing to do, but it takes money and time. It often takes several years as well. So our company kind of marries all that together, the experiences we've had with our privately held business clients, and put this together in a really neat service that we can provide to people.
Okay. So I think, if my recollection is correct, I think it was in 1899 that the head of the patent office announced everything that could be invented had already been invented. Is this true? And he
I think it was
a moratorium on new patents for some period of time.
Well, I think he wanted to. I don't know if he did. He might have, but that was definitely said. And everyone always points to that as kind of like, oh, geez, when everything is done, everything, all the inventions are made. They point to this. Some other interesting things were the patent office had kind of a list. I think they still do of potential inventions or products that are impossible. One was heavier than air flight, impossible, right? Until the Wright brothers came up with it. That didn't happen. So that was on the list. Another one that was on the list was, I always think this is funny, hair growth for men, almost
Okay.
impossible, right? Until someone created it. So yeah, I think since 1899, we've had one or two inventions that have really helped us out. So I'm glad
Oh,
they
that's funny. So
didn't
you're
stop.
saying, so to kind of simplify things, the patent examiners just kind of had a cheat sheet of the 50 kinds of impossible things that some scam artist is going to try to patent, and you can just automatically reject those when you just look at the impossible list, right? That was kind
Yeah,
of the idea.
that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Well, talk to me about the secondary patent market. How
Sure.
large is it? Like, how many patents change hands a year? Or how do you measure the size of that market?
Honestly, I'm not sure. It's a private market. It's one where there's metrics, but this is one where companies buy and sell patents for strategic reasons. So it's not like the NYSE where you can go in and you can
Right,
see how many
right.
million shares were traded. So it's one where it really is kind of a bespoke market. There's, I would say, several 100,000 patents change hands, maybe, or tens of thousands of patents, maybe
Oh,
each
wow.
year. Yeah,
That many.
it's quite a few. Yeah. But it's a mixture between strategic players, your Samsungs, your Apples, your Googles of the world, maybe filling holes and doing deals with each other or other companies. And then it's also a combination of say these non-practicing entities or patent trolls purchasing patents, and that kind of makes this whole marketplace go. And it's a global market. People are buying and selling, especially some of the changes in Europe where they have a new patent court for the entire European Union, so that made all these European patents change hands more often. So it really is one where there's no single marketplace you go to and say, I want to buy a patent. It's more of just folks brokering patents and just being part of the marketplace.
Gotcha. And then in addition to the actual tens or hundreds of thousands of patents that are changing hands, you then have licensing deals, which are probably of a similar magnitude, I'm guessing.
Yeah, oh, definitely. So there's a lot of licenses. Yeah, and those now, the patents don't necessarily change hands, but certainly value does, right? So you'll see a lot
Yeah.
of companies cross-license patents where they can have access to each other's portfolio. And then there's different degrees of licensing where, for example, at a university, you can license patents out on an exclusive basis. So you have every right as the licensee, almost every right, except ownership of the patent itself. And so that too, even though that's a license, that's really closer to being a sale because of how many rights transfer over
I
to the
see.
person. So yeah, the patents it's a little bit of a complicated business just because it's property, but it's intangible property. So
Yeah.
it can do a lot of different things without actually changing hands, or you can actually have the property change hands.
Fascinating. I'm really anxious to dive into this. I know you speak on this subject a lot. How do you want to kind of lay this out for the listeners?
Oh,
What's kind of a
for
sequence of events you kind of want to go through to explain in more detail your services, your product, and such?
Yeah, we can just take it from the top of how we
Okay.
normally folks will approach us, because there's some, as you know, there's some interesting estate planning opportunities as well that
Okay.
we can put together with this. So on the front end with the businesses, a lot of times we'll be approached or we'll approach clients or what have you, um, usually they're referred over to us. And the ideal client is someone who's a privately held business, successful privately held business. And it can be of a variety of a lot of times people think the folks who need patents or use them are high tech, and that's not necessarily the case, especially in the fact of the non-patent, the patent trolling side, right? The patent trolls really like to have kind of simpler businesses to target, because even those simpler businesses use a lot of technology today. So our clients coming to us all the way from their restaurant owners, successful restaurant chains, all the way to maybe trading operations where they're doing stock trading and they have their own software or sell software in that, to, of course, your traditional high-tech companies that are privately held, of which there's many, and then some people in between. So the metal benders of the world that, are very, we have in the Midwest, right? A lot of manufacturing companies. So all those are great clients because they all use technology. Even real estate developers nowadays are using some really high-tech stuff. And they're not just digging dirt and building houses. So really any of those clients are interesting folks to talk to and could use our services. So what we do is we'll sit down with them, talk about, what we do, like we're doing. And then also just understand, some of the risks they face, namely, like, what do you do to make money? How do you earn income? So we figure that out because that's where the patent trolls are going to target. Then what we'll be able to do is match up. We have patents, and then we can also purchase patents in the secondary market if we don't have the right ones for them. And then for the most part, we'll figure that out, and then we'll right size the license amount to see, okay, how many services of ours can we really help? What can we do? And then we'll get a patent license over to them, or the license are the patents from us. Because what we do is, I didn't even mention this, I skipped ahead, but we go in the marketplace, our marketplace that we're in every day, and we see these patents that are there that might be good patent troll patents or targets, and we'll buy them before the trolls do. And then we own those patents. We put them, essentially, you can think of, in a bucket, and then we license those out to our clients. So we have, access, whether we own them or have access to many tens of thousands of patents that can work for the client's purposes. So we do that. Client gets a license to this, and the longer they subscribe with us, the better the value is, because we'll charge a flat fee, and we're going out there and buying patents all over the place for them. Also, what we'll do is kind of understand, okay, what are the risks that you face from competitors, and what are some of your goals in the IP space? Like, do you have a patent portfolio? Do you want one? Should we have one? And then we can also use our own patents to provide that kind of starting point for them if they want to build their own portfolio, or if they're sued by a competitor, which happens a lot, which is one of the reasons why we formed Patent Veritas, because we can instantly help them out and say, hey, we have the following 3 or 4 patents you should probably use. You can sue the competitor, because the worst thing you can have is to be sued for patent litigation and not have a patent to sue back to somebody.
Right.
That's, they have a gun, you don't, that's a pretty bad fight. So, and we get called a lot of times. Again, one of the reasons we started Patent Veritas, we were getting calls from people to say, hey, we have a patent lawsuit against us. I don't have any patents. Usually the lawyers would call us and said, can you get us patents quickly? How fast do you need them? Like, in a day or two? Well, it's not going to happen. It takes a while to get these patents to purchase the right ones. So now we can have these patents available in case they're sued by a competitor, and that really helps out a case. So that's on the front end.
Oh, I was going to ask you, so your clients, are they licensing like your whole portfolio of patents, or just certain patents? How do you typically do that?
Yeah, just the ones that are going to be of value to them.
Okay.
So we'll have groups of patents that are of value to almost any companies, like I'll call them process workflow patents. So almost every business has some sort of process workflow that they go through. And and usually involves software. These are the most typical ones. But that's almost every company. Everything from a restaurant where you're purchasing, you don't think about it, but if you order from a restaurant online on your phone, there's a process workflow that goes from start to finish. Or even when you sit down, a lot of times restaurants are automated, especially some of the bigger, not necessarily publicly chains, but some of the better, even kind of privately held chained restaurants. They're going to have a process workflow from when you sit down, you order, you do this, and there's going to be software and automation involved in that. So those sorts of patents, generally everybody should probably have a license to, and we're on the lookout for those all the time, because those are prime patent troll patents. So we want to buy those. And at the same time, then there's going to be some that are a little more bespoke to their industry, right? So if you're in the manufacturing business, you're going to have a certain need of different patents versus if you do, say, crypto trading, right? You're going to have a different set of patents that are more crypto specific. The metal benders of the world, the manufacturers of the world are going to be over here. They're going to have a different group of patents. So we'll include those as appropriate. Or if you're a restaurant, you're going to have different online ordering patents that are probably very relevant to your business, not so much to the crypto guys. So that's how we usually do that, and kind of right size which ones are going to work best for who.
And you mentioned the scenario that an attorney representing a defendant will call you saying, hey, my client needs some patents. Can you help us out? It seems like, from what I know about litigation, it seems like it's almost too late by then. Is that true? Is it better, even if it was the day before they were sued, if they had the license in place?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whenever, if you're the defendant and you're calling us looking for patents, it's on the late side. And that's tough to get in place. We can do it, but it's going to take a while, and that's not the position you want to be in, because the case isn't going to be stayed just because you don't have any defenses. It's going to keep moving. In fact, the plaintiff is going to be really happy. The adversary is happy that you don't have patents, and to move that case along quickly, because it's going to force you into a settlement that's not very favorable. So yeah, so that's why we always try and get the word out, try and talk with people like we're doing here. Like, hey guys, we can offer this. Let's talk now. As opposed to when you're sued by, a patent troll, or you're sued by a competitor. Let's talk now and get this in place, and let's get that access to the IP in place now.
Okay, so let me just recap to make sure I have it. So you're having proactive conversations with these privately held companies, and you're kind of assessing their current IP portfolio, and then you're deciding if it should be supplemented with some patents, licenses to patents that you own, and then you kind of get them set up as a client, and then over time you'll acquire more patents that they may just automatically benefit from. And then if they then do get sued, they have a really strong defense because they have access to all of the licenses, or all the patents that they've licensed from you. So now all of a sudden, instead of coming back saying, hey, you've infringed on the plaintiff's patent, they can say, no, we haven't. And in fact, we actually have intellectual property that protects what we're doing. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. Well, it's even more than that. They can use the patents to sue the other party. It's not so much it protects what they're doing. It's more of, hey, they're going to say, the plaintiff is going to say, hey, you're using my patent. Look at this. You're manufacturing tires a certain way. That's fine. What they're going to say is, now our client is going to be able to say, fine, but we have 5 other patents that you're using right now, so we're going to sue you back. So we can either go through with this. We can either go through with this whole lawsuit, and I'm probably going to make more money off this than you are, or we can resolve this suit, because the goal is to actually bring the suit to a close as quickly as possible for our client. And by doing that, by having your own weapons, you can do that.
Now, with a patent troll, you won't have as much of an offensive approach, right? That's really more if it's a competitor suing you.
That's correct. Yeah, if it's a competitor, you have that. If it's a patent troll, the goal here is to try and starve the trolls of as many patents as possible and minimize that risk. So it's kind of a double part that we're able to provide for that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to kind of the next part of the process, or the business.
Yeah, no, I mentioned some really neat tax and estate planning opportunities here as well. So the way the business is structured is that if we're able to, a lot of our clients, this is kind of a longer term solution for them with their IP side. And that allows us to do some really neat things as well, because the most common, most popular thing is for us to actually then look at insurance and insuring, our deal, if you will. And that is, there's a couple different ways to do it, and it really depends on the client's own estate planning. A lot of the folks that we work with are pretty well off folks, pretty affluent folks from their businesses. But the simplest thing would be that we could take out a life insurance policy on a business owner who's of the company. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure our deal goes through. So a lot of clients are going to sign a multi-year deal, 3-5-year deals, ideally even longer. We'll have you as a client as long as you want, but something in that order. And then we're able to take out a policy and purchase a policy where we pay the premiums. And this is a whole life policy. And so the cash value is going to accumulate in that as we pay those premiums. And then if at a certain time the client decides to end a relationship with us, we're able to transfer that policy over to them in an efficient way, however that works for them. Again, that's kind of bespoke to the particular client, but we can move that policy over to them. So the advantage is twofold now, is that by working with us, their business is getting access to all these different patents, access to our, portfolio, able to counterclaim against adversaries if they're threatened or sued. And at the same time now, we can help them out with a life insurance policy where they name the beneficiaries, they do those sorts of things, and then ultimately that policy will be sent over to them when our relationship with us ends. And so now they have a hopefully fully paid up whole life policy with cash value that they can use for whatever purpose they want. So it's a really neat way that it's structured. There's some other types of insurance as well. If folks qualify for that, that's called private placement life insurance. Excuse me. And with private placement life insurance, that's for accredited investors, but that's another possibility where we can work with them via PPLI, or some of our clients have PPLI. It's private placement life insurance is called PPLI. They have that in place already. And so we can do something similar with that, slightly different structure for our back end. But again, if it's already set up, or if they want to set that up, that's a different form of life insurance. And it really depends on what what's best for the client as to their particular situation. But the neat part about that is that they get a double, they get both benefits, not just their business gets the benefit, and then they get the benefit as well personally for some of these in life insurance. So it's a neat system. We're able to work with that and to offer our clients.
Okay, so let me check for understanding there. So the client signs some contract with you, for some period of time, 3, 5 more years, to basically have a subscription to your to the various bespoke combination of patents that they are licensing. Because of that contractual relationship and the receivable that your company has, that gives you an insurable interest. Because if the owner of that business were to die suddenly, that might jeopardize the ongoing nature of the business, which might jeopardize your ability to collect on this long-term contract, right? So that's what creates the insurable interest. And then in theory, every client wants your product. They just maybe don't want to pay for it. Well, and it's not just your product, it's a lot of things, right?
Right.
Most people want lots of stuff, they just don't want to pay for it. And so by using this structure, by adding the additional layer of the life insurance, it kind of it makes it a more attractive value proposition for them, and not only in the short run, but even in the long run. Does that
Absolutely.
about
That does. No, well said. Absolutely. Because this is an extra benefit from working with us. It's not just, especially privately held businesses, right? It's again, this is those owners' money, right? And they're working hard for that. So they may want this service, but they say, like you said, geez, this is, kind of expensive, because patent licenses are not cheap. They're several hundreds of thousands of dollars often. So this is a way, though, to provide an additional incentive for working with us over the long haul, right? Making a commitment with us will help make a commitment with you as well, and provide a real benefit, to you and your family from working with us, in addition to a great benefit for your business. So it's kind of a win-win situation all around. And then we're very happy to do it because we have a client for the long term. And that's where the value can really accumulate for the business as well, because each year we're going out, we're bird dogging more patents, we're buying more patents. So that bucket, so to speak, just keeps getting bigger for that price. So it's a great thing for their business too, because the longer you work with us, the more patents you're going to have a license to, and the more value you're going to realize for your license.
How do you decide, like, let's look at a hypothetical industry that has 10 players in it. Let's say it's some niche industry, and there's 10 companies that all manufacture something similar. Well, obviously you can't go sell your solution to all 10 of the companies. Well, I mean, I guess you could. It would at least protect all of them from the patent trolls, but it
Right.
wouldn't give them any protection from one another. How do you, what's your strategy there? Is it kind of a, once, in a situation like this, once you have one client in this space, do you not take on any more? Or by, and I guess it depends on which risk they're trying to insure. If it's the patent troll risk, in theory, the 10 of them are all better off like teaming up, if you will, right?
Yeah.
To kind of combine their resources, and it would be more cost effective for you to license the same group of patents 10 times, or sell 10 subscriptions instead of just one. Tell me about how you strategically look at that situation.
Yeah, situations like that, I mean, you have to be careful on because you don't want to have where, you start having kind of clients suing each other and both of them coming to you for patents to use against each other. So it's a great point made. And we assess that on kind of a case by case basis, but it really is looking out for kind of a conflict of interest. We haven't had that happen. But if it is, we would look at that and say, okay, we'd be careful about what rights each party would have. Like you said, if they all want patent troll protection, that's not as big of a deal. But if folks want to have that access as well to the patent portfolio, now we really need to look at it and say, okay, what could happen if these guys sue each other, right? And what should we do? And the right answer there is to not take conflicting positions. That's a pretty
Sure.
straightforward thing.
Well, and that's another reason when you're talking to a potential client in this hypothetical scenario of 10 players in this industry, the fact that you're talking to one of them implies you don't have the other nine as a client. And if they say no to you, in the back of their mind, they have to be thinking, well, who are they going to call next? Right.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, we've had something not exactly similar, but like that happen in other, and that's right. It's a Coke or Pepsi thing. So if Coke says no, we go to Pepsi, then Coke knows that, well, geez, that wasn't maybe the best thing. So yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a little incentive, I guess, for the client who we're talking to sign up for us. In addition to all the benefits we just talked about, maybe they don't want to see, we'll be behind the scenes and all of a sudden get whacked over the head with some patents. It's never a fun day.
Sure. So, can you, for the listeners, I find that like case studies, examples are really helpful to help learn. Do you have like an example or two you could give us? And I'm sure they'll be anonymous, but maybe just an example of, maybe somebody who was a client who got sued and the the outcome because of this, or could you give us some kind of examples or a blended example of several things, a hypothetical, whatever you're most comfortable with?
Yeah, we can do a couple different ones. I mean, we haven't had yet where a client was sued and had to access the portfolio. We haven't had that yet.
Okay.
But we have had in the past where we will get, as I mentioned, folks are sued. They don't have patents, their adversary does. And this was in an area where you wouldn't even think of as being like, there's patents in this. Car sales,
Okay.
namely used car sales.
Oh,
True.
wow.
No one thinks of this like that, but there are patents out there. I know for a fact there are patents out there in the used car sales market at reaching pricing, at reaching distribution, and how to optimize inventory. All that. Those are real patents, and they were
Okay.
issued and by the United States government. And we were in the middle of that case. Won't name parties, but where two competitors, used car salespeople, big ones, very
Sure.
large companies, both privately held, one sued the other. Not surprisingly, we got a phone call from their attorney, and they said, listen, we have a bit of a situation on our hands. These two companies are suing each other. Their competitor just sued them. They have a patent that pretty much covers 100% of their revenue, which is never a good position to be in because that means that all of your business is at risk. We need patents. We need them now. We were able to help them, and we were able to locate and find used car patents,
Wow.
which was a great win. And they were very happy, and we were able to do that in a timely fashion. However, that was a fire drill that I don't ever want to go through again, and really did set this whole business of Patent Veritas in motion. One of the reasons, because Nick Stabinski and I looked at each other and thought there has to be a better way than this,
I see.
and so we formed this. So that's a great case study because, again, if I were to tell you before, Dave, hey, there's patents on used car sales, you think I'm crazy, but there is, and there's a lot of them out there. So that's a great example of that. And then, in terms of other folks, just clients of signing up, how that works. Sure, there's one, I'll give a more traditional role. They do, they sell software, partially as a reseller of software and partially their own, and they have different process workflows that they have. They realize the value. Talked with these folks, they realize the value of our services, and fairly straightforward, just what I mentioned, which is we sit down and say, how do you earn your revenue? How do you make your money? What does your workflow look like? and you get a license in place relatively quickly. You know, that only takes a license after we understand how the business works, really only takes, if the client's ready, a day. It's very simple to have that. We have, you know, our licenses we like to use. It's very simple to put one of these up and running. And so that was great. And then they also realized the value of the life insurance. And now that, of course, takes a little longer, but the two can be done separately. We can get the license in place first, and then let the process play out for the life insurance piece. Because, of course, there's some underwriting for our client there personally to do. And I should mention, there's at the same time, depending on the carrier and provider, you know, because sometimes the question is, well, what if I can't get insurance? Excuse me. There's actually carriers that you can insure different groups and the like, and still receive the benefit of some of those insurance things like cash value and the like that they might care about. You don't get all the benefits, but you can get some of the value still out of it. So you know, that wasn't this instance. The folks are, you know, going through the underwriting, no problem, but that's out there. So that's a fairly straightforward situation.
Now, now you're probably not going to like this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Uh-oh.
In this hypothetical example of the 10 companies in this one niche, and you're talking to one of them and they think, might this be a strategy for me to weaken my other 9 competitors? Might I be a little patent trollish like, but this is at least a legitimate, you know, operating company, and the patents that we would be seeking to enforce, I mean, actually revolve around our business. They're not the what did you call the patent trolls? Non-operating entities?
Yeah, non-practicing entities. Sure.
Non-practicing. So if somebody did that, and let's just say they didn't even have the conversation, or a year into it, this idea suddenly strikes them and they get an aggressive attorney and they start suing these other folks, is that a problem on your end, or whether they use their service offensively or defensively, are you neutral to that?
So if they're a client and they come to us and say, hey, we want to use the patents offensively, we'd have to look at it and really think it might be best to even just sell them the patents at that point. So there's
I
different
see.
ways. Yeah, we would talk with the client and understand their goals as to why they need it or otherwise. Because again, that's a competitive position. You know, it's obviously, like in the example I gave with the used car sales, the one company felt strong enough that they wanted to sue another used car sales company because maybe it's you know, they're gaining market share or a whole bunch of reasons why companies might use patents, right? So, you know, that's really a conversation we'd have to have with the client to understand, is this the best way, you know, is this what you need for your goals? And then we'll kind of help them out as best as possible.
Yeah, and especially with the Department of Labor, I think it was the Department of Labor that basically invalidated non-competes. So it could be if this competitor is very good at stealing their top car sales people, and they can't really use a non-compete to stop that any longer. Maybe this would be another way to shut that off.
Yeah, it could. I mean, these are kind of case by case examples that you want
Yeah,
to really talk with
understood.
the client. But yeah, that's correct. Especially it would be one where maybe they've stolen the IP that you have. They're implementing it in their system or whatever. Then you know you really, that's something that's what patents are for, right? That's what we're
Mhm.
here for. So we want to have that conversation. We want to talk with them and work with them to help our clients.
What do you enjoy most about what you're doing now and with Patent Veritas and your role within the company? What do you enjoy most?
You know, it's a great business actually. I get the privilege of working with really successful business people in all kinds of businesses, and so it's really fun because you'll sit there and say you can make money doing that, and a lot of money, and it's neat to see a lot of these folks grew the business from the ground up. Most of our clients are, so they started their businesses and have grown it the entire time, and in a whole bunch, like I said, everything from restaurants all the way to really complicated, you know, software that just boggles the mind when you look at it. But every single person is interesting because they all have some insight into their work that really has allowed them to be successful. And it's neat working with people like that. It's really a privilege. It's really fun because you learn something and you say, why didn't I think of that? But then we're able to help them out and really help their business, protect their business with this, and then help them personally as well, right? With some of their estate planning, their tax and estate planning with some of these insurance needs. So it's pretty cool to combine all that together. And it's never a dull day. On the patent side, even, when we're out there in the market bird dogging and trying to buy patents, it's always interesting because you're always learning something off the patents themselves too. You get to read through those and kind of see, is this something that's going to work for us? Is it not? And have the team kind of weigh in on all that, and that's a lot of fun too. So it's a really neat business. It's every day's a little different. Every company definitely is a little different, and every client's a little different. So it's always kind of cool. There's it's not a cookie cutter business where every day we're just like, okay. I mean, we have a nice workflow to get folks signed up, but it's always interesting to meet them and to learn more about what they do. Like everything from the used car sales guys to the more traditional software folks and guys that manufacture boats. So it's kind of cool to just see like.
No, I can understand. I can appreciate it because that's really what I love about my role. With my companies, I'm working with the same type of clients you are.
Yep.
Mine just are in a niche where they export at least a portion of their product, and I love working with those folks because they're the lifeblood of our economy. There's just they're dynamic, they're ambitious, they're visionaries, they're successful. I mean, just there's a saying that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I can think of no better group of 5 people to spend the most time with than successful entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
I love that as well.
It really is the best. I mean, I tell my friends or whatever, and I'm like, it's just pretty cool. It's inspiring, like you said, just to be around these folks and then be able to help them. It's kind of neat. Like, hey, we're able to help your business just a little bit be more successful. That's pretty cool. It's a real privilege.
Sure. Okay, so then that's the one side. That's the part you like. What are some of the things your clients tell you? Like once they've become a client, they've started working with you. What are the things they tell you that they say that they really like working with your firm? What do they tell you makes your firm special and unique?
We've been told a couple different things. One is we're very hardworking. We're always working on their behalf, always going hard for them. With that, that's always good. Available, we're very available and to call folks like that and punctual. And also just I've actually had a nice award, and they said, we treat people with respect. And so I think that's a big deal nowadays, especially. So that was that's a wonderful thing. So folks like that as well, just I guess it's just we're hard working, put our nose down for them and treat the folks with respect and be there for them. I think that's what I've heard. So
That's great. That is great. Well, as we wrap up, I have 3 more questions. One is, if somebody wants to reach out to you to explore the services, what's the best way for them to reach you? LinkedIn, call you, email you?
Email is always good, or a phone call, or LinkedIn, any of those. So I'll give you all 3.
Yes.
My
So
email
the
is
LinkedIn we'll put in the show notes, so they'll have access to that. So what's the email?
Sure. It's Hein, Ahein as in Nancy, at patentveritas.com, PATENTVERITAS.com. And then you can also phone, if you're so inclined to give a call, you can do so. It's oh geez, I just blanked that number. Because I don't call my own number.
I know.
So, but I'll give you another one. 312-371-6578 is a direct number for me. So you can call that as well. It's kind of funny. I don't call myself. So
I hear you. Okay, well, that's
there-
one of the 3 questions. The second one is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
No, I think we covered a lot of information. So this is great. I'm sure I'll think about that an hour from now, but no, I think it's good. So
Okay,
thanks.
well, the last one, it's kind of a fun one, and it's a question you maybe don't get asked every day. So if you could go back in time and give advice to your 25-year-old self when you were graduating from law school, what advice might you give to yourself?
Wow, those are always that's tough to look back. I'd say it all works out. It'll work
Okay,
out. Some things that happen to you, You don't realize why they do, but then later on, looking back, you understand that that needed to happen so some really good things happen later. So it works out, and just keep moving forward. And
Well, that sounds like great advice for anybody, not just your 25-year-old self. So that is great. Well, Andy, this has really been fun, and I've learned a lot. And I think our listeners and my clients could really benefit from knowing your company. Oh, I guess the one other question. So if somebody is interested in your service, are you can take the law, you're out of the law firm, but can you take the law firm out of the attorney? Does the clock start ticking, the moment they call you, or how does your process work there? Do you have an introductory conversation that's complimentary, or what's your?
I mean, we don't charge by the hour or anything like that. So all of this is the upfront work is done, just upfront work, just to see,
Okay.
is this a good client? Is this the person we're talking with? Would this be a good client, right? Would we be a good fit for them? Are we going to be able to provide the value that I just talked about and we just talked about? Are we going to be able to provide that value for you? Occasionally, the answer is no, because the business might not support it. And so that's simple. But no, our fees come from the patent license. That's how we make our money. And so we want to make sure that this is the right person that we're working with, because that the right person meaning we can provide value to that person, we can actually add to their business. So there's no hourly rate, there's no anything.
Okay.
Just to understand their business and otherwise, have plenty of conversations. And if we're not the good fit, we'll tell you. It's not going to be good for anybody. So
Okay.
we let folks know.
That is great. Well, Andy, again, thank you so much for your time. This has really been fun. And, being from the Midwest myself, I'm from another one of those I states, Iowa. I always joke that even though I've been in Texas for 40 years, I always joke people in the West or the South, they all think Iowa, Idaho, Ohio, and Indiana are the same place. All those states that start with a vowel, end with a vowel, somewhere up in the Midwest, they think they're all like the same place.
Yeah, I've been asked if I like to ski in Colorado before, even though it's about a 12-hour drive, which the answer is yes, but I don't get there too often. So
Understood. Well, hey, thanks again, Andy, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
cool. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. Really
All
appreciate
right.
it.